Welcome on to yet another edition of the Faster Beyond 50 podcast. My name is Brad Nadalt. We've got the Coach Lindsey Parry with us once again. And today we're talking about running with arthritis. We're going to be talking about fartleks. Don't worry, it is family friendly. We're going to be talking about skipping as part of your running training, returning to running post-injury, and combining coaching with a running group. So if you have an online coach or a one-on-one coach, but you still want to run with your running group, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Lindsey, nice to catch up. For me, it is Ultra Week. I tell you what, I am so nervous. It's been a long time. I mentioned last week that it's 12 years since I ran my first ultra marathon. I'm doing one on Saturday, 56 kilometers. I tell you, I'm petrified, Lindsey. I have to tell you, I am bricking it.
Yeah, so Brad, I've got a friend, a good family friend, Jana Kalmar, and she has a saying around running, and she said, running or a race is like an exam. If you're prepared for the exam, you're going to get the result. And so, yes, there's going to be some nerves, but you have prepared for the exam. So I think you can go in with a good deal of confidence that you will pass the exam. And then my final piece of advice that I always give my children when they get very nervous about whatever it is that they've got to go and do is, and I tell them the nerves are good because nerves mean that it's important to you. So I think the nerves will ensure that you are mentally ready and get up for race day, and you quite literally have studied for the exam, Brad. You've done everything that was asked of you. You've done it well. You've listened to your body. So I think good that you're a bit nervous, but also you can be confident.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of South Africans that listen to this podcast, so they'll know the Two Oceans, but we've also got a huge international contingent that listen to Faster Beyond 50. And if you've never heard of the Two Oceans Marathon, it's a weird thing about South Africa, Lindsey. Like, it's the Two Oceans Marathon, but it's an ultra marathon. Why we call it a marathon, I have no idea. It should be the Two Oceans Ultra Marathon, but it's not. But it is spectacular, and I'm really lucky because I get to live in the city I'm running in. It's not often that you get to run a really cool race on your doorstep, and I've got to run a lot of the route as part of training, so I know that. And I think also knowing what's coming is what's scaring me, because it is frightening at times, but it is magnificently beautiful. So if you haven't checked it out, definitely do it. Go have a look at the Two Oceans Marathon. It is probably that little stretch of Chapman's Peak as the second half starts. It's probably one of the most beautiful roads that you can run on. I'm really, really looking forward to it. So it should be good. Lindsey, let's dive straight into today's podcast. It is a Q&A podcast, and if you have a question you'd like answered, all you need to do is click on the link that's in the description. We do filter the video questions up to the top. We love the video questions. You can also leave them as a voice note, or you can type them out as well. You're more than welcome to do that. So just click on that link, submit your question exactly like Mike did. And this is what Mike wanted to know, Linz.
Hi, Brad and Lindsey. Really great to be a part of your community. I've been running since the beginning of this year with you guys. I started running in 2012, something like that. I've just turned 60. Last couple of months I've had a bit of a Achilles issue, which I've worked through with your easy recovery plan, which is great. Looking back to starting more next week, which is really good. But my question is this: I'd like to add some skipping into my strength training, and just wondering what the best way to do that is. Either just to add it in on top, or just what do you think, really? I love your podcasts and all that you're trying to do, and to keep us older guys running in their 60s, 70s and beyond. Take care and God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much for the question, Mike. Gee, Lindsey, that's an impressive collection of medals in the background there too. I love sort of seeing people's medals and the sort of stuff that they're racing. So Mike's got a pretty impressive collection, but there's a few things to unpack there. Obviously, Mike's coming back from an Achilles injury, wants to add skipping. Obviously, this is exclusive to Mike's question, but I think let's answer the question. Is skipping beneficial as a runner? Is it strength training? And if we should be doing it, what are some of the things we should look out for?
Well, so it's a pretty good form of eccentric training. So yes, is the very short part of the answer is yes, skipping is good and helpful for running. You just have to be a little bit careful. So eccentric load effectively is a load that is put onto the muscles when the muscle is lengthening rather than shortening. So just to very simply explain that if you pick up a weight and pull it up towards your chin, a bicep curl, when you pick it up, your bicep muscle contracts and shortens, and therefore it causes the lever to pull this way. Okay, so you lift that weight up. Now, when we put that weight down, we're controlling the lowering. So the muscle is lengthening to allow that distal portion of the limb to move away. Okay, and the muscle is still contracting so that it can control. Now, that's called an eccentric contraction. That's exactly what's happening when you're skipping. Okay, so you push, you bounce up, using the muscles in and around the ankles, predominantly the calf muscle, and that is the concentric contraction. And then we land, and now our calf has to control the lowering onto the ground and acting as a shock absorber, which is exactly what happens when we run. So it's a really good form of exercise. It's actually a really good end chain rehabilitation exercise for Achilles. Okay, but we talk about foot contacts. Now, running is foot contacts, and one of the things that we are trying to do as we get into our 60s, 70s, and beyond is that we do want to reduce the total number of foot contacts, because that's part of the reason as we get older that we don't recover properly, that we increase our risk of hurting ourselves. So we just have to be careful about how much skipping that we add in there and when we add the skipping. So one of the things about running as we get older is that we're trying to reduce the frequency of the running. And so now if we're going to add in skipping and loads of skipping in between those run days, it can have or remove the effect of not doing running every day of the week. So that then brings up how much and how often should I do it. And actually, I would probably use some short bursts of skipping as a really good activation tool for your running, rather than having it as part of our standalone strength training routine. And so I would start with some really short bouts of it. So I'm talking like 10, 15 seconds, 2 to 3 times, maybe twice a week before we do our runs. And I'd build that up over time, but I wouldn't build it beyond a maximum of 3 times 1 minute. So essentially, let's call it 5 minutes of 5-minute total time of skipping, with 2 to 3 minutes of that 5 minutes being skipping and the rest of the time being recovering between the skips. That's kind of how I'd use it, so that you get the benefits of both the activation of the eccentric strengthening of the calf, and in particular of the strengthening of the tendons, but that you don't overdo that contact time and push yourself back into that running everyday trap.
Great question, Mike. Thank you so much for being in touch. Lindsey, next question comes through from Steve Thatcher, and I dig this question too, because it's something that I've been wondering about lately. Steve was saying, please help me define and utilize fartleks. The traditional definition is speed play, and we hear of fast running, for instance, the distance between two objects like a tree and a road sign. The fartlek seems spontaneous and unplanned, yet I see many online coaches calling a workout with 1 minute fast and 1 minute slow repeats a fartlek. Which definition is correct, and how do you coach fartlek workouts to be the most effective used with your runners? Thank you, from Steve. Great question, Linz.
Yeah, so fartlek is a very self-regulated workout. So the true definition of fartlek is exactly as you said. It's an unstructured workout. I think it comes from a Finnish word, but the point it's Scandinavian. Let's go with Scandinavian, because that means we're both potentially right. But yes, I can't remember exactly where it comes from, but the bottom line is that it's speed play. So that is its direct translation, speed play, and it is supposed to be unstructured. And you are literally supposed to choose a distance randomly, as you said, to the next tree, to the next pylon, and that could be anything ranging from 20 seconds to 5 minutes, because it really is supposed to be on how you feel. So today you might feel like doing tempo pace for longer, and then you might need very short recoveries in between because you recover really quickly, and then you go again. And then as the workout progresses, maybe you need more time to recover between bouts. So then you either shorten the interval and or increase the length of recovery. So it's supposed to be a totally random play of speed, and it's a good session. It can sometimes be really tough because as humans and as runners can often push ourselves quite a lot harder in that workout. So when I'm utilizing true fartleks in a training session, Brad, I will tell people that I want X amount of fast running in or around a given range of intensity, and then let them play with that as they like. 1 minute pieces, 2 minute pieces, 5 minute pieces, 30-second pieces, and then to recover as they like. And then at the end of the workout, we just want 20 minutes of hard running in and around that. So that's the way that I'd give the instruction. We do prescribe fartleks sometimes as intervals. So that's really the difference. Fixed intervals, whether they are random in terms of not random, because when I've built it, whether it's been random or kind of fixed, 1 minute, 1 minute, 2 minute, 1 minute, whatever. But if it's like in a 1 minute, 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 3 minute, 1.5 minute, if it's that kind of workout, I normally put fartlek in inverted commas because they're not fixed intervals, but that's not the true definition of a fartlek. And really, when would you use fartleks in training? It's when you want an athlete to work hard, but you want them to have the freedom of just making their own decision. It can sometimes be just way mentally easier and give them a little of a break. And again, if you're me, that's not a break. I have to think all day about how to deploy intervals into people's workouts and what to do. So I don't want to think when I'm running. I just want my watch to beep and tell me. So a fartlek is not relaxing for me at all. It makes me mentally tired because I'm constantly thinking. So that's the difference. They are excellent. It's an excellent form of interval type training, but that fixed work versus recovery, that is called an interval. Fartlek is random.
Yep. Cool. Great question. I don't know if we've ever had a question like that on one of the podcasts we've done in the past. It's the first time I seem to recall it. Next question from Mark. And don't forget, if you have a question you'd like to submit, just click on the link in the podcast description. This one, Mark is in Brisbane, says, I injured my ankle in a fall and haven't trained since last Sunday. So it's a week and a bit since he posted this. He says, a week later, I'm about to jump back into my plan. Should I just carry on as normal, or does my plan need to be adjusted? How do you return to play, Lindsey, from an injury? Obviously, this is specific to Mark, but if someone else is bouncing back, when can you just pick up where you left off, and when do you need to adjust? This episode of the Faster Beyond 50 podcast is brought to you by Active Forever. You love to run, but recovery just doesn't happen as fast as it used to. That's where Recover Plus Muscle Repair comes in. Designed for runners over 50, it includes whey protein for muscle repair, creatine for strength, and L-glutamine to fight soreness so you bounce back quicker and run pain-free. Fuel your recovery the right way. Head over to Get Active Forever and use the coupon code FAST to get 10% off your first order. That's getactiveforever.com.
So typically from any acute injury, first run back when everything else is pain-free activity, your normal daily activities are pain-free. You can walk, you can take stairs, you can do those kind of things. That would be okay. I'm going to try again. I would always start with like a 20-minute easy run, and the reason why I always start with a 20-minute easy run is because on a 20-minute run, just because of the nature of the route you've planned, typically if that gets sore, you are always within walking distance of home, and you're not tempted to just run through it and get home because it's going to take you too long to get home. So that's why always 20 minutes. And then if I pass the 20-minute test and everything is cool, I will kind of go to a graded return. So I'd look at the plan that I'm on and I'd go, right, over the next 10 days, I'm just going to do a greater and a greater proportion of what's on the plan, but I'm not going to do any of the high intensity workouts. So strip out all the intensity, run easy, and just spend the next 10 days getting back to what the plan says, and then carry on with the plan. Don't try and play catch up. Don't try and do extra. Of course, if you don't have a specific event that you are training for, then you could do that 10 days and then effectively just move your whole plan backwards 2 weeks and then have your end of program time trial or whatever it is that you're working towards. You can move that 2 weeks further into the distance. But typically we're training for something. It's got a fixed date. So we just hit those 10 days building up, and then we get on the plan and we stay on the plan.
Yeah, Lindsey, it's interesting. I think the fear that a lot of people have is that they're going to lose fitness if they do miss out some training because of an injury or illness or whatever. And the truth is, I mean, in a week, 2 weeks, you don't really lose anything. I mean, we spoke about sort of, I don't know if it was on this podcast or another podcast we did, where you said what you lose in fitness, you gain in freshness. So it's this sort of balance that you play, and it's only once you're like longer than 2 weeks or longer that you start losing fitness. So yeah, nothing really to stress about for Mark. He just needs to ease back in so he doesn't like sort of agitate the injury and then back to square one.
Exactly. So those 10 days are literally making sure we don't aggravate, and you haven't lost fitness in a week, as Brad said, and those 10 days are not an inactive 10 days. So even though you might not feel like you're doing exactly what's on the plan, you're still either progressing or, at worst case now, just kind of staying where your fitness is, and then you'll carry on going. But you'll miss very little. There'll be almost zero tangible impact on the event that you are preparing for.
Yeah, excellent. Mark, if you've got any other follow-up questions, be sure to pop them into the forum on the Coach Parry app. Our coaches are there ready and waiting to answer any questions you have. Lindsey, the next question came through from Emma, who is in Vancouver, also a member of the Coach Parry community. She says, I'm relatively new to Coach Parry. This past winter, spring, it was my first sort of running season. One of the challenges I faced was trying to combine the Coach Parry plan with the training schedule of her local running group. My group typically targets a marathon or half marathon, and the coaches create a plan around that. We usually train together twice a week, speed interval session on a Tuesday and long runs on Saturdays. I really enjoy running with a group, especially for the harder sessions. It's easy to stay consistent with the effort, and I get more out of the workout. The Coach Parry plan has been great. It's more tailored to my current fitness and goals, but it often doesn't align with what my group's sessions are. Long runs are usually different distances. The speed sessions often vary in pace, distance, and the number of repeats. I'd love any general suggestions or advice on how to manage this. I'm planning to book a coaching call soon to go into more detail, but in the meantime, any guidance would be much appreciated to help me prepare. Great question, Emma. And it's, Lindsey, it's one that we get quite often because we do have a lot of, because we're all online, we don't do any sort of in-person coaching. We get this question lots. People belong to running clubs or have running groups. How do they make the Coach Parry plan work with what they are doing with their support structures locally where they are?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And a big part of the reason why we run is for the social aspect. It's our tribe, it's our people, it's our community. So it's a very good question, very relevant and valid. So the long run one is the easiest to answer, and that is that obviously the weekend runs on our plans have always been very interchangeable. So you can, if your plan has long runs on a Sunday, you can easily shift those to a Saturday and then have a slightly shorter, easier run on Sunday. The important thing with those long runs isn't always the exact distance, but the intensity is key. And so that's always, and it's a slightly difficult one to manage when you're running in a group, but I would say that's the aspect to focus on rather than focusing too heavily on the distance. And of course, we do have the forum. So if you've got coaches in there, they shouldn't be drip feeding you the plan week to week. So you can jump on a call, like you wanted a book call, you can jump on a call and we can kind of help you navigate the 1 month at a time, 2 months at a time. But also the forum is there. So if you know that your long run sequence is going to look like X, we can kind of have a look at that, and we can also pinpoint which for us are the 1 or 2 really important long runs that you actually dial in on that number. So if you're training for a marathon, for example, one of the mistakes that I see is people will run too many long runs too close together. So that's where we could maybe go, right, you're going to do, if they've got 4 long runs planned in a row, we're going to do 2 of those. And then you are going to do 2 long runs on your own or modified, start with them, turn back early. I don't know. But that's where I feel like those are the 2 key things, is like, don't do too many long runs too often, and make sure that you do your long runs at the right intensity. And let's figure out how you can do that in the group. When it comes to the speed work, sure, there can often be a flow that is slightly better suited to getting yourself towards an event. In other words, when do you do hills? When do you do longer intervals? When do you do shorter intervals? However, the one thing that is true as we get older is that often the act of the intervals is more important than what we do in the intervals themselves, because as we get older, one of the very important aspects to doing this type of training is the neuromuscular benefits and the maintenance of the range of motion and the coordination of movement. And so, yes, there's a performance element. And yes, if you are very serious about winning age group races and things like that, that might not gel the best with the group sessions. You may not all be training towards the same event. But in terms of our overall health, wellness, and fitness, the actual intervals that you do are slightly less important, and doing them is more important. And again, in a call, you could go through, right, what's the ideal? Because this is, again, Brad, always the intensity is the key as we get older, is if the coaches tell us to do X session, what should I be targeting as a pace? So if we're doing 400s or 800s or 1 milers or 3-minute pieces, 4-minute pieces, what should that look like in terms of my effort level, so that I'm not risking getting injured or overtired?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question, Emma. Thank you so much for that. And Lindsey, I think that's one of the things that I love about the Coach Parry plan. And I'm not just saying this because I'm part of the team, but I love the fact that you can move things around, that it's this drop and drag calendar. And I'll use myself as an example in the build up to this ultra marathon. I've been doing a lot of cross training. So I've been cycling a few times a week, been running, doing a bit of swimming, and I belong to a cycling club and I belong to a running club. And I've just made the decision, and it's funny, my cycling club and my running club do their long rides and runs on a Saturday. So I need to choose which one I want to do, and the other one I end up doing on my own. And when I first started cycling, I was like, I don't mind cycling on my own, but I've just decided that it's probably safer to run on my own than cycle on my own. I'd rather be in a group cycling. It's just, I just feel a little bit safer on the roads doing that. And that's what I've done, is I've just swapped my long run and my long cycle around, so that I'm now cycling on a Saturday, running on a Sunday. I'm doing that on my own. But as we now upping the mileage, I'm not cycling as much on the weekends. So I've just swapped it back. So I'm now running my long runs with a club on the weekends, and I'm not doing a long cycle on the Saturday. I'm just riding on a Tuesday and a Thursday. So it works out for me. And that's what I love about this little drop and drag calendar that we've got on coachparry.com as well. If you want to check it out and you'd like to join us, you can check out the link that's in the description of that of this podcast right now. Lindsey, then a question in from Tatiana in Greece. Let me just pop this up there, and here we go.
Hello, this is Tatiana from Greece. I'm very glad to find you on the internet, and I am proud to be a member of Coach Parry.com. I have started a math program and I am very satisfied. I have a question. Do you have any suggestions for for master athletes who have arthritis? I have ankylosing spondylitis, which makes me very stiff sometimes. I don't take any drugs, but I think I need to work on it. Any suggestions would be appreciated. Thank you very much.
Excellent stuff. Great question from Tatiana. And just so everybody knows, I popped that video into sort of auto translate on the tool that we use, and it said that she's following a math program. It's not a math program. They're just struggling with Tatiana's accent. It's a math program, which is the maximum aerobic function. Lindsey, some advice for Tatiana with regards to running with arthritis?
Yeah, so general advice around arthritis first, and then a little bit of specific for her with the spondylizing ankylosing. So it's one of my favorite questions, actually, Brad, because it's slightly complicated, but it's also quite common. And there is a misconception with arthritis that you should stop exercising. And the worst thing you can do with arthritis is to stop exercising. It massively accelerates that seizing up and pain and discomfort between the joints. So if you have arthritis, it is so important to move. But what we need to do is figure out a new balance for you, particularly if you like running. So something like cycling is probably arguably a better option than running. But we can get to a point where you can run with minimal discomfort and often no discomfort, even with arthritis. But it's about managing the load and the frequency. So you might be able to run twice a week, 3 times a week, 4 times a week. So we first have to manage where is that line that we don't accelerate that discomfort. Because if we run, you are going to increase the wear and tear, but the sort of freezing of the joint is going to be much slower, even though there is increased wear and tear with running, than if we do nothing. So you will do a combination of low impact or no impact. So elliptical and cycling are awesome cross training to go with running when you've got arthritis. And then crucially, we really have to do the right strength training. And that's particularly true for the spondylosis, because that we really need to make sure that we're doing the right strength training. So there are some contraindicated exercises, but as arthritis in general, we want to do the right strength training so that we can strengthen and improve the function of the joint. If we improve the function of the joint, we reduce the amount of rubbing that occurs between those articular surfaces, and that will both reduce the pain, it'll slow down the wear and tear, it'll make your movement much more comfortable. Okay, so we have to do the right strength training, and we've got to do mobility and flexibility for the exact same reason. So if we improve the mobility of all our joints, then we are going to have a much better functioning joint, and that's going to make a huge difference to your discomfort, huge difference to the rate of progression of the arthritis. Okay, and so to this spondylosis, that's why the type of exercises that we do are so important. So depending exactly where in the spine that is, we just need to be careful of the flexion and the extension that we do in the spine. So we definitely want to do loads of strengthening around the glutes and the lower back, really maintain the structural integrity in that in the lower back, and then we also want to maintain the mobility. So we just got to make sure we don't do any exercises that irritate or inflame that area. And then the same as any normal arthritis, because there's a lot of instability, particularly in the lower back when we're running, we want to make sure that we are so strong in our glutes, quads, hamstrings, so that we really maintain stability there, reduce the amount of movement that's happening between the vertebra in the spine, and we may need to reduce the frequency. So, this might be a classic example where 3 days a week is way better than doing 4 days a week, adding in a day of cycling or something similar, and just make sure that we manage with discomfort. And often we can radically improve that discomfort through the strength training, the mobility, and just doing the right mix of exercises.
Yeah, it's so funny. I hear you say that, Lindsey, and I don't know who used the phrase, if it was you, if it was Sean or someone else on the team, where they said motion is lotion. especially as we get older. So I think that applies in this sort of case. And it's funny, as you're answering that question, it just made me think back to my childhood. And I don't know if I've ever told you this, my grandmother was super active, sort of like, 20s, 30s. She used to play field hockey. And then I don't know what happened. She stopped playing for a while, but then in her sort of like 50s, 60s was really struggling with arthritis big time. And she took up golf, funnily enough, in her 60s. And I remember she used to love golf. She used to play 2 to 3 times a week. But she was like in all sorts of pain because of joints, and she used to moan. And just thinking now, like, I'd hate to think what shape she would have been in. And she played golf till she was almost 80, just like pretty close to when she died. And I'd hate to think the sort of physical shape she would have been if she didn't do that, because she was walking 2 to 3 times a week. She never took a cart. She used to walk the full 18 holes. She used to obviously swing a golf club. So it's just amazing how sort of staying active for her, quality of life, what it did to her. So fantastic advice there, Linz. As always, thank you so much. Don't forget, if you have a question you'd like to answer, or like us to answer here on the podcast, all you need to do is head over to the link that's in the description. You can leave it via video, voice note, or you can type it up. We do filter the video questions to the top, just like Tatiana. So please do leave us a video question. We love seeing and hearing from you, and seeing exactly where you are in the world. Until next time, hopefully I'll see you after Saturday's ultra marathon. But if you are in Cape Town for the Two Oceans, Coach Barry will have a stand at the expo. Please do pop by, come say how's it. We'd love to meet and chat in the build up to the race as well. Lindsey, as always, thanks for your time today. We'll catch up again next week. Cheers.
Big pleasure. Goodbye.